Good morning, Chair Parks, Commissioners, Budget Committee members. I'm Tammy Little, Clackamas County Assessor. It's an honor to be here today to present our 21-22 budget. The mission of the Assessment and Taxation Department is to provide administration of state property tax laws, including appraisal, assessment, tax collection, and mapping services to property taxpayers, county residents, and taxing districts so they can have confidence in their tax system. Districts are funded to deliver services, and all stakeholders receive the highest quality customer experience. We are successful in accomplishing our work because of the high caliber, dedicated, and hardworking staff in assessment and taxation. I feel very honored to work with such a great group of people. And I'd also like to introduce our Deputy Assessor, Bronson Rueda. And Lynn Longfellow, our Appraisal Manager, is on Zoom with us. I too would like to thank Finance for all of their help throughout the process of submitting our budget. I'm ready for the next slide, which highlights some of our accomplishments over the past year. It was very important to us that we were able to continue serving the public throughout the pandemic. Our frontline customer service staff returned to the office full-time in May of last year, and our lobby reopened to the public with reduced hours on June 22nd. All other staff worked a hybrid schedule of remote work and some on-site to complete tasks that could only be done in the office. Next, another big accomplishment during an unprecedented year of emergencies and transformation was preparing the tax roll on time and to completion. 2020 results had a 5% increase in both market and taxable value. We have seen a continued year-over-year market value growth for the past 8 years. Clackamas County continues that pace in growth, with residential markets remaining strong, and the number of permits this year expected to exceed the number in 2020. The third accomplishment listed is our continued success administering Oregon's property tax system. We believe our mission and goals align with the county's important strategic goal to build public trust through good government. The complete and accurate creation of the tax roll along with collections is critical for over 70% of the revenue in the county's general fund each year. Next, our lobby was remodeled to comply with COVID protocols and greatly increased the safety of our staff and customers. It was an important accomplishment, and we would like to acknowledge that we appreciated the work done by facilities. The first accomplishment in valuation listed was procuring 2 new software applications. The first will further integrate our GIS mapping with our appraisal software, and the second will actually, we believe, transform how appraisal captures new construction and inventory in the field. These are very big projects for our valuation staff, and their hard work will pay off in process and workflow efficiencies, plus greatly reduce paper-centric work. Next, many of our staff play a key role each year in the eligibility determinations and monitoring of ongoing qualifications for many Oregon tax programs. And while this is very important work, it is an unfunded mandate that does take a great deal of our staff time. Another valuation program accomplishment, while the county has continued to experience substantial growth, in 2020, our 10 field appraisers, only 10, really had to hustle to value nearly 11,700 accounts, and that included over 1,300 new homes just last year. Next, in valuation, we implemented an electronic inventory filing system for business personal property owners. This new online process is going well, and it is really a great success. To date, we have a 58% rate of online filers in this, our first year. This system will also allow an option for those property owners to receive their tax statement paperless, and that's the first time we've been able to do that in Clackamas County. Next, in revenue and records, Despite the pandemic, our collection rates remained at levels similar to prior years, and we are currently on track to be 98% collected by the end of this fiscal year, for the end of this fiscal year on June 30th, 2021. In addition, we timely billed and processed payments for distribution, which is critical for all taxing districts. They receive the bulk of their annual property tax revenue from October to December. Next in revenue and records was the implementation of a new payment processing provider in collaboration with the treasurer. This was in place for last November's tax season, and it also has been a great success. It was an important part of the 89% distribution rate we achieved by December. The final accomplishment on this slide is the statewide digital mapping project. It has been a long-term goal. It's been happening over many, many years, nearing 2 decades, I believe. And I bring it up because we're really excited to be near completion. There are many ways that this will bring opportunities and efficiencies to our work. And the next slide. This slide lists some of our measures. In 2020, our results were consistent with prior years. Despite the prevailing circumstances of the pandemic, I just say this and I mean it, I'm really proud of our staff. They continued to work hard, very hard, and they found ways to solve multiple challenges in order for us to maintain and achieve this consistency. The second measure on the list is of new construction appraisals completed. This number remained high due to the amount of permits and a strong residential market, creating a high volume of work for field appraisers, as I mentioned. For the third year in a row, Clackamas County had 5 of the top 10 fastest growing cities in the state of Oregon. Ranking number 1 was Happy Valley, Wilsonville number 2, Sandy 3, City of Molalla ranked number 6, and the City of Oregon City ranked number 9. Next in valuation is the number of properties not physically reappraised in the past 6 years. In fact, we have not visited most properties in the county in over 20 years. This is one of our strategic results, and it needs attention. Due to the heavy real estate activity and lots of remodeling during the pandemic, we have continued to lose ground on this goal. Valuation's next important measure and strategic goal listed here is property that is not included on the tax roll. Omitted property continues to be a growing issue. From our aerial imagery flight, we discovered property that added $421,000 in back taxes collected in 2020. Plus, it added an additional $165,000 to the 2020 tax roll, and that amount will be extended and grow 3% each year going forward. This was from a review of only 2.5% of our accounts. Resources and annual flights would allow us to grow this number exponentially. There is a measure not listed here, and I want to mention it. It's not on this slide, and that measure is appeals. In the past several years, we've had a low number of appeals due to the strong economy. That's why it wasn't initially listed. But I'm mentioning it because we are currently experiencing a significant spike in commercial appeals. Our concern is the potential workload and the unknown result of these appeals. In tax revenue, I'd like to point out that the use of online payment options has steadily increased over the years, and the most significant increase we've seen was in 2020. So the next slide, please. This slide is our program profile summary. It shows we have 4 programs which are funded 25% or more by the state CAFA grant and other miscellaneous revenue. All of the work in our programs are mandated by Oregon Revised Statute and the Oregon Constitution, and 100% of our work is completed in our department. Next slide. On our revenue and revenue and expenses charts, you can see that nearly 72% of our revenue is from the general fund, nearly 15% from the state CAFA grant, and 13% from other miscellaneous revenues. In our expenditures, nearly 75% of our costs are in personnel services. Materials, services, and allocations are another 24%. Next slide, please. On our summary of revenue and expenses, we have a 3.7% increase in general fund support, which is in line with our 3.5% increase in 2021 personnel services. The increase shown here in materials and services is due primarily to new and increasing software maintenance costs. Next slide. Our department summary shows our proposed budget for 21-22 is $9.4 million, with general fund support at $6.775, a 3.7% increase in general fund dollars over the prior year. And at a high level, our significant policy and financial issues are, first, the need for improved technology. The next issue listed is how to manage the significant increase in appeals. Third is addressing the significant growth in the county while not meeting DOR staffing guidelines. In the fourth description, we anticipate efficiencies in property field appraisal work, which come with additional software maintenance costs. And our final issue listed is the need for annual aerial imagery flights. That does conclude my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss our work with you today and your consideration of our proposed budget. My staff and I are happy to answer your questions.
I have one question that's just because it's terminology I'm unfamiliar with, I guess, I'm not sure. So back on page 3, under administration, the first thing, total cost per account. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that an account means a property tax statement or something like that. And it was $46 per account, but projected at the end of the year is $49, but what you're projecting for 21-22 is $52. So costs of administration are going up?
That's correct.
And what's driving that?
Primarily the personnel costs and the materials and services, the line item for additional maintenance on software, or annual maintenance on software.
Software maintenance is being factored into that. I hadn't thought about that, but thank you, for that. Appreciate.
It's our budget amount and with the number of accounts. So yes, costs outpace.
Okay. And citizen member Caldwell and then Mr. Feely.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is about, you mentioned appraisal staff possibilities and the aerial flights. Are those two additions that would recoup more money than the cost?
They would. I actually have a report that I would be happy to share that showed that rate of return that I mentioned for the aerial imagery flight we had. I've shared it with Elizabeth, and that's where the $421,000 one-time addition after reviewing 2.5% of our accounts, and the addition of $165,000 growing each year forward. Yes, we have that. We have a flight under contract scheduled for October of this year, but with that always comes the need for additional staff to manage this work. And we're below staffing levels at this time, according to the DOR, Department of Revenue guidelines. So we are scrambling and hustling as evidenced by how many properties each of our field appraisers reviewed.
I'd be interested in seeing it, and I have in the past seen where adding appraisal staff unearths more new value in tax income than what the actual cost of the position is, so,
Absolutely.
and that might be something we want to address tomorrow in amendments.
I believe that the data and our work demands support additional FTE, and yes, we can show you data that says exactly that. So we are in need. We often have to triage our work. We have to follow all the mandatory revised statutes to complete the tax roll. But as mentioned, we haven't been to the majority of the properties in the county in over 20 years. So there's a lot of inventory that is out of date, and that needs correcting. We all want to have a fair and equitable tax roll, whether it's removing something that's gone or adding new construction. We would like it sooner rather than later. I know that when the timing is appropriate, I believe we have support for additional staff. I'm not sure when that is, but for us, it's definitely sooner rather than later.
And do you have applicants available to hire? Is that an issue for your office?
We don't have them available right at the time. Right now, it is a very difficult position to fill, our property appraiser position. We have low numbers in our recruitments. We have lots of competition from the other two metro counties, and it is very difficult to find people. Right now, fee appraisers the market is great, so they're not interested as much as in different times when the economy is not doing so well.
Chair, may I say something?
Yes,
This is
go ahead.
Elizabeth. And yeah, Sean, I appreciate, the need for FTEs, and we've been talking with the assessor's office of that need to complete tasks. And that is on the agenda for this year, as Gary mentioned earlier, that we will be putting proposals together for the commissioners. But during this time, we weren't going to be discussing adding FTEs in this budget, because we wanted to do it as a package for all the departments that are seeking these needs. So if I could recommend that we pull it from our discussion tomorrow, just in light of doing a comprehensive countywide FTE look.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That's why I say I'm not sure of the appropriate time.
Well,
But,
I would be interested in hearing more about it, and I won't be here later in the year. If it's recouping more money than it's costing, I don't know what the delay would be. So I would appreciate more discussion tomorrow, if that's possible.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be happy to come back if we.
Right, thank you for that conversation. Mr. Feely?
Well, my questions are along the same line as Ms. Coldwell's. On page 8, you show an impact of $246,000. Is that for the additional flights? Is that total? It's the last thing under significant policy or financial issues.
Yes, it is, and also for additional software maintenance.
Okay, and so in the narrative, you talk about cost sharing with the other taxing jurisdictions. I mean, that seems to me to be an excellent idea, because they're obviously going to benefit. I mean, the county is only one beneficiary of adding property to the tax roll, so if we could look at that, I think that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Feely. That is our plan. We've been working with Finance and Elizabeth on that, and to create a collaboration. Currently, the sheriff is using our aerial imagery, as well as our 911 department. They are using the LiDAR imagery around the
Okay,
buildings.
yeah.
The city of Molalla we've shared this flight with many jurisdictions, DTD, the parks, county forestry, they all use it. The city of Molalla is using it, and they intend to pay an additional portion just for their area on our next flight in order to get some additional needs in the imagery that they have. But it's definitely a great cost-sharing opportunity.
Absolutely.
A great way to share resources and share a product that helps all of us.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking the more you can share the costs, some of that may go towards funding the staff
That is our
actually
goal.
does the research. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I'd like to add, because this is very exciting. This was just brought to the finances attention last month, and we've met with both Bronson and Tammy to learn about this. And so Sandra and I are working with them to how we can put together a collective plan, because it's not just our departments, it's outside in the county as well. There's a lot of opportunity to utilize these services for many multi-purposes.
Cities and fire
So
districts
we
throughout the
we are
county.
just, we are
That's property tax revenue.
yeah, we are
kind of thing.
just beginning this process, so I don't think we will have information to put into this budget, but this is on our immediate docket.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that comment, Elizabeth, appreciate that. Thank you very much. I believe that's the end of our questions that we have today for you. Tammy, thank you for being here. Thanks for the good work that you do and keeping us on track. And the drones are actually really producing nicely. I remember when we first talked about that on the budget committee and said, that sounds like a good idea, and it continues to be. So, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.